Hey y'all, welcome to the Coyote Trapping School podcast. I am your host, Chris Pope, coming at you for another episode. I'm going to talk about sales this episode. So before we get into that, the sales pitch, want to be sure to thank our sponsors, Cots Bros Lures. This is the time to get all your supplies. I actually just, last week, trying to think last week I sent off my beaver caster and my skunk essence and sent it to Cots Bros, and Kyle, he shot me an email, said, hey, this is what I got. I actually asked him beforehand, how do I need to ship it, especially the skunk essence, and can I ship them it with the caster because of the smell being so strong, or can I ship them? Should I ship them separately? And he told me, the best way to ship them, and sent them up there, and wound up getting, $250 plus shipping from my caster and skunk essence. So man, that's gonna set me up pretty darn well for this coming trapping season. They'll give you cash, or send you a check for your glands, or they will give you store credit, and that's what I did, just later to get store credit. I already had some points because they got the point system. Really nice bonus of doing business with them is they've got a point system. So when you buy stuff, you earn points, and then you can apply those points to future purchases. So I already had some points built up, and then they just added the equivalent to my points, and so it's pretty seamless. Go in, and so later this week I'm going to put that order in and go ahead and try to have everything ready for the coming season. So whatever trapping supplies you need for the upcoming trapping season, hit up Cots Bros Lures, KAATZBROS.com, and they can definitely get you fixed up. And I'm going to have Kyle, I'm not sure when yet, but going to have him on talking specifically about glands and how a trapper, what to focus on. I actually am going to order they've got a gland DVD, and so I'm going to order that and go from there so far as how to figure out, because I've got a variety of glands in my freezer, but I catch such a mixed bag of things that I don't accumulate a lot of different glands, and so try to figure out what the best, and I know a lot of us are probably in the same boat, but try to figure out what's the best approach for freezing those and saving those, and because heck, just with skunk and beaver, $250 for stuff you're already catching, that's not a bad deal. So obviously the prices vary, but beaver caster prices have held strong, and I don't know that I see any changes in the skunk essence market either. So the only disappointing thing about that is vast majority of my skunk essence came from Texas, and so I won't have the Texas trip to stockpile my skunk essence again this year. But so anyhow, please support our sponsors, Cots Bros. We thank them for sponsoring us. If you talk to them, if you send them an email, let them know where you heard about them at. And like I said, we're going to get Kyle on here to talk about some glands and how we can better use and optimize our catches. And I think we're definitely going to have some promotions and some things with Cots Bros here this fall as we get ready for trapping season. Because man, it seems forever away, but it's coming quick. It's hard to imagine we're 3 months into this whole coronavirus thing. Everything kind of started shutting down in March, and here it is June. This year's half gone. 2020 is half gone. So a lot going on. And speaking of that, so that's going to lead us into today's topic. I was going to talk a little bit about sales from your wildlife control operator, wildlife control business perspective. Now, I'm going to caveat that just with all this. This whole series is not meant to be an authoritative series on the best way to do things. I am still learning as I go, and that's kind of what I'm trying to do is the things that I've learned, try to put that out there so that maybe some of y'all can learn from that, or not make some of the mistakes, or maybe get a little improvement. I don't think that's I guess in general, not make some of the mistakes that I have made. So not that I've made many big mistakes, but I've learned a lot. And so if you can shorten that learning curve a little bit, that would be hugely advantageous. And one of the things, just in an effort to try to focus in on my business this year, I've been kind of running the business very loosely the last 2 years, and and just seeing how with relatively little effort, how it's grown, and it just really having the realization that, what could happen if I put some effort into trying to grow this business. And so that's what I've tried to do. And it certainly brings a different perspective, when you're just doing it kind of along, and it's kind of a hobby. You don't really take it the same. It's not as serious. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's just a different perspective, and that's definitely had an impact on how I think about things, and how I'm trying to think about things going forward. So, and thinking about sales, and this is the kind of stuff that, when I was 10 years ago, in college, and thinking and dreaming about having my own business, my own wildlife business, my own trapping business, this is not the kind of stuff that I was really thinking about and picturing. Thinking, in an idealistic mindset about, catching, realistically, catching animals, and having emergency calls, and some of that from when I was in South Georgia and doing some alligator trapping. And that was very much a quick response in some cases scenario. A lot of calls, it was people complaining about an alligator, and you could just go. We would plan on going that evening, but somebody calls and got a gator under their car. They want somebody to respond pretty quick, right? And so I don't know, maybe that gave me a little bit of a different impression. But I guess the more glamorous side of the business, and thinking about, some of the shows that are on, and you see the glamorous side and the catching animals, and that's what gets us all excited, right? We're trappers. That's what we live for, is catching animals. But from a realistic business perspective, that I am coming to realize, at least for what I'm thinking, that is not the ideal business scenario. I guess those aren't the ideal jobs, or maybe those are, just getting the foot in the door, because the reality is, from what I've seen, and I know there's niche markets that you can get into, and there's guys that, depending on the location and all, I mean, you can find, high-end clients that are willing to pay, for doing, large scale predator work, and things like that. But, that stuff we've talked about before, that stuff's going to require traveling, unless you're just living in the right area, which is probably going to mean there's not a whole lot around, if that's, the main bulk of your business. But, what I'm trying to look at is a true business, and not, I think about it in the way that Dave Ramsey talks about, do you own a business, or do you just own your job? Because, if everything revolves around you doing all the work, you don't own so much of a business, because a business can be bought and sold, and somebody else can see it as an asset and buy it, and it continues to run whether you're there or not. If you just own something that you've got to be there every day, you more or less own your job, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It's all up to each person's perspective and what they're after in it, right? But I definitely want the ability to be able to step back, or to try to grow, and not be needed in the day-to-day operations all the time, which is kind of a funny scenario that I think in any industry, in any career, as we go, as you move along, you get into things. I guess ideally, you get into things based on what you are interested in and what you like. So, get into wildlife because you like dealing with wildlife. But the farther your career progresses, and if you're trying to climb the ladder, so to speak, every time you do that takes you a little bit farther, and a little bit farther, and a little bit farther from what you really got into it to do. The things that we love are oftentimes, those kind of entry level roles that if there is any kind of industry around it, as you progress, you get away from that, the main driver for why you got into it in the first place. It's kind of a weird dichotomy, I guess you could say. But so anyway, but that is something that me thinking long term, I would like to have own an asset that doesn't necessarily require me to be in the day-to-day operations. That I can be thinking about working on the business versus in the business, is what a lot of business people will say. So so that brings me around to the whole sales scenario, that you're not doing a lot of selling if you're just catching critters, right? Somebody calls, hey, I got a raccoon in my attic. Hey, I got a snake in the basement. That there's very minimal selling that goes on. You tell them a price and they either say yeah or no, and that's it. But when you start to see, from what I've kind of seen, is the bigger jobs, the exclusion jobs, because that's where you can build some efficiency, because you're at one job for a day or 2 days or 3 days, getting a lot of work done. It's that's something that's kind of a tangible, that you can build some kind of cash flow models based on, and versus if you're counting on 5 raccoon calls a day or 5 trapping calls a day, you may or may not get them. But if you can build in those higher ticket jobs, that, to me, from my perspective, what I've seen, that is what gives the business stability. And so that is what takes the sales process. And that's something that I've never been familiar with, but I've definitely tried to learn more about that. And so I've listened and read books by Zig Ziglar, Secrets of Closing the Sale, and Grant Cardone, Sell or Be Sold, and listened to a lot of their different podcasts and books. And it's made me, especially Secrets to Closing the Sale, Zig Ziglar, and just the sales process, because there is very much a sales process, and that has really keyed me into realize when I'm getting pitched and when I'm getting sold. And there's one individual that he works for a like a online marketing company, and he calls me probably once a quarter at least, and man, I've probably talked with him for 2 hours over the phone, at different aspects and at different times. And I can see, because I've read and listened and tried to pay attention to learn about the sales process, I can see the steps that he's checking off. If he's trying to remove the objections, that I might bring up in trying to get out of not purchasing his product, and it's I've kind of taken a little bit of an affinity for a good salesman, and when they go through, and I point blank asked him last time I had him on the phone. I said, man, what is y'all sales training? Who is y'all sales training through? Because it is y'all do a really good job, and he appreciated that. I think any good salesman would, and like I said, I don't consider myself a salesman, but I've been trying to learn, because I typed up a proposal today for a job that it was a $6,500 job, and it's taken me a long time to kind of get comfortable with that, honestly, and to be able to go through that and itemize out and justify and explain to the customer, what that's for. Because, like I said, from my early perspective and early aspects, I didn't think about the exclusion as being the main business, So in kind of coming to that realization, one of the things that Ziegler and Cardone and any good salesman is going to tell you is if you're not sold on the product, you aren't going to be a good salesperson. And I realized that earlier this year, just in in some of the listening to the Wildlife Control podcast, Kyle Waltz, and the different add-on products and stuff that people include. Insulation's one, and I've been in plenty of attics that I didn't think had adequate insulation. And one day I was in an attic, and the insulation was hit or miss. Old insulation, and it loses its, I don't even know what the right insulation terms are, but it starts to kind of compact, and you could tell that it's not what was originally put there. It wouldn't be considered adequate. And I don't know why, but in that attic, it hit me that I don't understand insulation. I don't understand how to explain to that customer. I know in my mind they could use more insulation, but I don't know how to explain to that customer, that's going to save you X amount of dollars because it's going to help, keep your home cooler and all that. And I don't, it was a weird scenario. And I hope I'm doing this justice by explaining that. But just like I said, in that attic, looking at the insulation, thinking, I know I should pitch these people insulation, but I can't explain why. And that's it hit me that I'm not sold on insulation just because it's not something that I've ever been familiar with, and it's not necessarily something that directly relates to wildlife. I can't if it's something that can keep an animal out, I can explain that, I can sell that. And that's the kind of things that being in the business and trying to be around other people, and going through trainings and different things. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that you learn and you pick up. And that's, in my opinion, that's one of the things that's going to help to grow your business. And because in business, it's often said that it's easier to sell to an existing customer than to acquire a new customer. And so, having a customer that is willing to pay you, and it can be, it's easier to sell to that customer than to try to go get in front of a new customer. And especially if you believe in the product that you're selling, that's what a lot of the sales trainings and a lot of people talk about. If you salesmen in a lot of places have a bad rap, and there's pushy people and there's pushy salesmen. But if you truly believe in your product, you truly believe that you can save these people more than what the cost of the insulation is going to be over the lifespan of their household, you're doing a disservice to those people by not trying to sell them, right? You're going to save them money over and above what they're going to pay, And so that's just something that, like I said, it's, as I focused on trying to grow this as more of a business and less as a hobby, just little things like that have really jumped out at me, thinking, realizing opportunities that I've been missing out on. And so another one is warranties. So this is something that I struggled with a lot in initially, because a lot of people ask about warranties. That's a common thing that other companies offer. And so when you're bidding a job, and there's multiple bids coming in, people are going to ask how long your warranty is, and what kind of warranty you offer. And one of the things that I always kind of felt uncomfortable with was warranties and offering a warranty. Not necessarily that I felt uncomfortable about offering the warranty for the work that I was providing, but I didn't want to have to come back and address a different issue just because I told them that they had a warranty. And again, you'd think that would have been self-explanatory, but again, I had the realization that if I'm going to offer a warranty, and if I'm going to be comfortable offering a warranty, then I need to be addressing all the issues that I find, that I see. And so that put me to when I go to a house, one of the things that I try to do is be, one of the things that I've tried to do is I get out of the truck, I got a flashlight or a headlight, and I've got my tape measure, and I've tried to get really diligent about taking notes and noting every little thing that I see that could be a potential entry point or access point, and then addressing that. Um, and then that's an easier sell, and it helps with your sales process if you say, all right, these are the areas that I noted that either are an issue or could potentially be an issue, and this is what it's going to cost to address those issues. And if you address all these issues, then here's my warranty. And it may be a high price, but if you want to pick and choose and you only want to address certain issues, that's fine. But I can't offer a warranty on that because I feel that these other areas are vulnerable. And that's something that I feel totally comfortable selling and talking about because, I feel comfortable looking at a house and spotting areas that I feel like are potential entry points. And I'm thinking, I'm thinking bats, which can get into a hole the size of a pencil, and rodents and mice, that can get into a dime or a nickel size hole. I'm thinking the whole spectrum, and so I'm nitpicking pretty good bit. But I want to feel comfortable that these people do take my bid, take my offer, and I'm telling them that I'm going to offer this warranty. I'm gonna stand by it. So one, it's gonna be well worth my time on the front end. If I do have to come back, and two, I feel really good that I'm not gonna have to come back because reality is they're probably not. They're gonna be more happy if they don't have to call you back than if they do, even if it's not costing you, or even if it's not costing them to come back out. So, and I'm way more happy if I don't have to come back out, especially if it's costing me and it's not costing them. So, like I said, some of this stuff is probably kind of common sense for folks, but it just me and my more of a trapper mindset way of thinking about things. It took me a little bit for these to get these realizations, and so what the warranty portion of it has done, and just that realization of me feeling comfortable offering a warranty, is that I line item out every potential point that I see that I feel needs to be addressed. And so that two things, you got your warranty working with you there. So, you got your kind of warranty as leverage of, hey, if we don't address all these issues, then I can't offer you a warranty. Or I can't offer you a full, you hear something in your house and I'll come out and handle it. And then two, it also sets kind of what I've heard referred to in sales trainings as an anchor. So it's your anchor for your kind of high price point. So odds are when people call you, then nobody's expecting you to come out there and give them a $6,500 estimate, right? And so that's going to be a shocker for them. But if you're addressing and covering all the potential issues and you feel comfortable offering a warranty on that, that sets the high point. So even if they don't want to, they're willing to forego the warranty and only do a portion of the work, that still leaves you a lot better range, odds are, of lining up with a $2,500 or $3,000 job than if you'd initially priced the job at $3,000, because they were still going to be like, wow, that's way more than I was expecting. And, then you'd probably wound up with a $1,500 job. And there, again, that goes to the efficiencies and being able to be at one place longer and being able to, be more efficient with your time and your equipment and your manpower that you have. And so I'm just trying to think through. And so, excuse me, not only, looking at addressing at all the potential warranty issues, vent covers and variety of things like that would be addressed. But then you've also got the potential for add-on services again, because if somebody is already paying you, already comfortable with you, they like you, they buy into your work and buy into what you're doing, then they're more willing to continue to pay you or pay you again. So looking for the add-on services like gutter cleaning or gutter guard installation, or like I talked about before, insulation. That's one thing, that I missed an opportunity on earlier this year was I sold a pretty big ticket exclusion job at a house, and we got wrapped up basically, and the homeowner was like, "Yeah, I got somebody coming out tomorrow to give me a price on cleaning the gutters." And I was like, "Man, we just went over this whole house, touched every gutter, installing drip edge in the construction gap behind the gutter. Like, why didn't I upcharge them $250?" And we could have basically done the work anyway and gotten paid for it. And that would probably been a low price compared to what a gutter company would pay. And that's another thing another aspect to try to figure out is what's competitive. But that customer was already comfortable paying me. I sold them on me and my service. And if I'd have said, "Hey, you know what? I noticed there's some," and that's what I try to do from now on. I notice your gutters are pretty full. I can also clean those at this price. And if you wanted to look at gutter guards, we can do that too. That would be this price. And so that's one of the things that I've also struggled with, is getting comfortable with those prices and trying to come up with kind of a pre-planned out price list, price sheet, of what certain services would cost, and get it down to where it's something that that's easily applied. So knowing what gutter guards are going to cost per foot of gutter, and so that way when you're at the house, you use your tape measure or walk it off or whatever, and say, well, I estimate there's 75 feet of gutter here, and at 345 or whatever gutter guards are going to cost a foot, that's going to be this price. And that will make things go smoother too. And that's that can be kind of a trial and error thing, because that doesn't necessarily play in to an extent to my spreadsheet that we talked about earlier, because it's mainly basing things off of hours. So you can back into that per unit price by figuring what's the product cost going to be, and then how long is it going to take me to install that. So if I'm buying drip edge by 10 foot, I'm gonna price that as a per foot item. So if 10 feet and it's, for easy math, $10, so it's $1 a foot. And then how much of that can I install in an hour? And I'm going to give myself a buffer, because some areas are going to be boom, boom, boom. It goes on smooth, and some areas is you're going to spend 30 minutes trying to install a 10-foot section. And so figure out how many sections that I can install in that hour, and then divide that to get your per foot price. Combine that with your product price, and boom, there you go. You have a per foot price that you've already kind of researched and gone through ahead of time, so that when you get to a customer, and they ask you about that, you say, "Oh yeah, well, this is what it's going to be." So and that's one area that I'm still trying to figure out, is the I guess overall the sales process with the customer. And I don't want to discount. I want to make sure that we take into account it. Everybody takes into account when you're selling it. And one thing, I listened to Dan Miller of 48 Days to the Work You Love, and and he's a dyed in the wool salesman. You know, he loves sales and salesmen, and you know, he talks about, you know, everybody's a salesman. You know, people talk about how they hate salesmen. And, you know, he says everybody's a salesman, whether you get paid commission or not. You know, if you go to a salary job, you go to an hourly job, you're selling your boss every day that you're worth whatever they're paying you. You know, and so I like that aspect. You know, and so um, that's one of the things. You know, one of the important aspects I think of good salesmanship is, um, you know, relationship building. And you know, you're not always going to build a relationship, a friendship, whatever, meeting somebody for 15 minutes, but you can give people a good feel for who you are, and you know what you're about, just by talking with them. And so that's kind of one of my wife kind of laughs at me because, um, you know, when I go and meet with somebody to give them a quote, you know, I come back and, you know, I'm telling her about it, and I tell her a little rundown. Well, yeah, well, their kid, you know, his kids went to this school and that school, and you know, he retired from so and so, and she's like, geez, you get the whole life story. And I said, you know, that's part of it. That's part of the process of, you know, I'm selling myself, so I want to be personable. I want to be professional, um, but I want to be personable, and you know, I want that person to know that you know, I care about them. I have an interest in them, and so I try to be cautious and careful, um, because you know, you doing this, you know, I run into plenty of situations where you know, I meet a wife at the house, and you know, I don't want to start asking her awkward questions that would, you know, make her think that I'm, you know, trying to plan something later on, or you know, trying to surveil or something like that. It's that kind of sounds weird to explain, but I've had that kind of just that realization that you know, if I ask her that question, you know, when's your husband going to be home, or something weird like that, you know, I don't want to give any red flags or give any concern, you know, or even asking, you know, like how many kids do you have, or I try to ask about kids if she brings it up or something like that, but I'm trying to stay professional and not creepy. Um, but you know, taking the time to not just rush off and try to get right into the job, or you know, on the phone answering phone calls, but trying to take the time and you know, build some kind of rapport, some kind of relationship. So, you know, when I get there, I, you know, talk with the customer for a few minutes and ask them about the problem, and you know, just you know, invite them to tell them about the process initially. Invite them to, you know, come along with me and look as I'm doing what I'm looking at, what I'm looking for. And you know, oftentimes folks never really thought about, you know, what we do as nuisance trappers or wildlife control operators until they had a squirrel in their house and they had to Google and figure out, you know, who they needed to call for that. And so I get questioned all the time of how did you get into this? And you know, one thing that I have no doubt that um, gains me some credibility, I guess, maybe, or some uh, feel good is, you know, that I'm an owner operator. You know, this is my company. You know, here lately with the coronavirus situation, and I'm trying to stay, um, you know, respectful and appropriate, and keep the distance. But my son, a lot of times with school being out, he'll ride with me, and a lot of times I try to keep him in the truck because you never know what he's going to say or where he's going to go, and he's all about going in people's houses, and being awkward. Um, but you know, and you know, somebody will see him in the truck, or you know, I'll have him out kind of walking around, and Lord knows he wants to talk, but um, you know, people kind of appreciate that, you know, that it's a family business, and you know, I'm out here supporting my family, and this is my family, you know, and hearing, you know, how I got started. That, you know, I started out trapping coyotes and beavers, and you know, people started calling me and said, "Hey, I got a raccoon in my attic or whatever," and that's kind of how it's grown. And that's kind of a feel good story, right? People like to hear that that. Oh, you had this passion and you followed it, and here's this business that you're operating. And so I know for a fact that I have won jobs and gotten jobs when I've not been the lowest bid, just because I think that I've taken the time with the customer to talk about them, to learn about them, to learn one thing that I figured out is to try to make sure that what they're telling me their problem is and what the solution that they want is line up, because I've run into that before. Of I got a squirrel in my attic, or but they're less concerned about the squirrel than they are about the smell or something like that. Where I try to kind of feel that out and make sure that I'm addressing all of the issues. You got a squirrel in your attic, absolutely, I want to take care of that squirrel, but you're really worried about this vent that's wide open or whatever. Trying to make sure that that I'm addressing, like, I don't know how the right way to say it is, but the perceived problem as well as the real problem, maybe. Um, so but anyway, that was kind of a long-winded ramble, but that relationship is very important. I feel like looking professional, being professional, having at least some stickers or a magnet or something on your truck, having some kind of logo outfit that you wear, or shirt, something that shows that you really are somebody that's here to try to catch a raccoon, and you're not somebody that's just trying to um, get in my house and pilfer around or something. Um, but like I say, I mean, I know there's some of the bigger companies that have salesmen that go out that are just trying to check boxes and get through as many calls as they can. And like I said, I have 100%. I know, because I've had customers tell me that you weren't the lowest bid, but we liked you. We liked the way you presented yourself, the way you presented the job, and so we want to go work with you. And I mean, I got to tell you, that means a lot, and that feels good to know that the work that I put in is paying off like that. One part of that I'm still trying to figure out what the best avenue or the best aspect is the actual kind of estimate process. So the way that I've started, and the way that I'm still running things, is when I show up, I have my phone. What I was doing was I was using Evernote, and so that's a note taking app that you can buy, or you can get it for free, but it syncs the notes across your phone, your laptop, wherever you can log into your account from wherever. And so what I would do is I would go to a place, I would name the title, put it in my business folder, and then I would I type out what the issues the client was having, and then I would go through and I would take notes in there, and then I would also take pictures. And so that was me trying to compile everything into one area, and then it automatically uploads those pictures. And so then when I got home, I just log in on my computer. I could download the pictures, and what I would do is I would generate a report. And so I called them. I try to make them real professional. So I called it a residential wildlife assessment. And I would put the contact information at the top, and then I get into the report, and it's more pictures. But I'd say an obvious access point is this corner, and then I'd put a picture, maybe circle it if I needed to, and just itemize out the issues that I saw, include pictures, and then at the bottom I would include a recommendation, and that's where the price is going to be, and that's where whatever areas that I'm going to address are covered in, and that has and does still work pretty well. I feel like I was talking to a lady today that I sent my assessment to, and she was in my area, we've got an area that's kind of a lot of vacation homes, and there's not, they're very high dollar, and but the people, the owners, are not necessarily always there, and so that's one thing that I found helps with that is, these are high net worth individuals, and they want some details, especially when they're going to be paying a lot of money, and so having pictures and showing, this is squirrel damage and this is squirrel feces and whatever, and being able to have those photos backs up that this is what I'm asking, telling you that it's going to cost to remediate the problem. So I'm still trying to figure out the right mix, because I really like that approach, just from providing a lot of details for people, but it takes a lot of time, especially when I go and I spend an hour and a half doing an inspection, and then at the end of the day I've got to come home and spend another 30 minutes at least putting this report together to send to somebody. And so it takes a lot of extra time, and it also takes away the opportunity to ask for the sale. And that's, in going through some of these different sales trainings and sales books, that's the most important part of being a salesman, is closing the sale, right? And so and there's a lot of credit and points around being able to ask for that sale in person, because you can address issues in person. And let's just be 100% honest, it's harder to tell somebody no in person than it is over email or over the phone. And so I definitely think that it's cost me some sales, because that has been my process. Because another aspect is, somebody's got a squirrel or raccoon, whatever, in their attic that you're trying to address. They see a huge sense of urgency. If they want this thing out yesterday, and here you are, it's going to take you another day to get with me on price, for doing this. And so, I think there is a lot of value in being able to hand the customer in person a proposal that says, all right, this is what it's going to cost. And then you can talk through the, your pictures and the different aspects. So, that's something that I haven't fully implemented yet, but that's something that I want to get better about, because I know there's no doubt in my mind that that's going to help increase my conversions, to be able to ask for that sale in person, and to be able to, offer and help to, I guess, kind of dispel the objections in person, rather than, somebody just sending me an email that says, oh, that's really too much, I think I'll wait for now. So still on the fence, I guess, as to how the ideal sales process works. But I think if you are dealing with the owner, and you're meeting them on person, in site, in person, on site, being able to give them a price on the spot and ask them for the sale right then, I think there's a huge value in that, and I truthfully think that would increase my conversions. And when I say conversions, I mean people that I actually sell, that actually say, yeah, let's do the work. Because like I say, when I send somebody an invoice or an estimate that's several $1,000s, it's real easy for them to reply back and say, well, those squirrels aren't bothering me that bad, But if I'm in person saying, listen, these squirrels could be chewing your attic wiring, they could be causing a fire hazard in your attic, they're destroying your insulation, they're leaving feces in your insulation, and they're letting water in these entry points. You're getting water in your house too, which is getting water damage, mold. I mean, you can in person list off the reasons why these squirrels need to be out of here. That's going to give you a lot of, I think it's going to give me a lot more, I hate to say leverage, but that's really what it is in being able to sell, make the sale and close it. Because that's the reality. Is if you can't close these sales, then it's you don't have a business. You don't have much going on, and it's the like I said, the thing that has really kind of resonated with me is the difference between that kind of quick response trapping mentality versus the exclusion aspect, and how that larger ticket um, business and jobs is really how that can help support and grow a business. Because the reality is there are plenty of businesses out there that's their moneymaker. That's their bread and butter. It's not like you're the first person that's out there, charging somebody several $1,000s to seal up the holes. There's lots of folks out there just waiting to do it, and there's a lot of them that you know are not going to do as good of a job as you or I. I can tell you that 100% because and that's another thing to keep in mind, and another thing, a reason to be passionate about selling is you've got somebody else that's um, a salesman for a big company, and all he's doing is trying to make the high dollar sale and get his commission, and then somebody else is going to come along and do the work, and they may not have had any training. They may just be kind of making. I've had jobs where I was called in after the fact of another company, and the lady said that the technician that was doing the exclusion point blank told her that he was just kind of feeling it out as he went. He hadn't had a lot of training, and that's a one of these bigger chain companies that are stapling hardware cloth, um, and just trying to they're doing exclusion work, but it's not quality. It's not stuff that's going to last, and they're charging probably more than you or I am charging right now. So, like I say, that's another point for knowing, feeling good about where your prices are, knowing that you're competitive, and then also feeling good about the quality of your work versus what some of those competitors are going to offer. Um, because, like I said, I mean, I saw, I did a dead bird removal, dead animal removal from a commercial building that was they started smelling it. They told me, they said, it's a bird. It's in this wall. She said, the lady told me, she said, we hired somebody to come out and get the birds out and seal up the holes. And she said they did, but we called them back and told them that there was a bird still left in there, and they never did respond. And we called them back and told them, hey, there's a dead bird in here, and they didn't respond. And so I wound up going back in, pain in the neck, but I got the bird out, and I showed them what the other company had done for their exclusion. There was a couple of vents. Um, I think the place may have at one time been a laundromat or something. It looked like dryer vents. I may have been for some kind of gas heaters or something. I don't know, but it was like a 3-inch exhaust, dryer vent going out, um, block wall, but it had been cut off, and so you had this kind of pigtail of the dryer vent. Place had probably been there 20 years, and so of course those plastic vents that they put on the outside was all deteriorated and missing a flapper and everything, and that's how these starlings were getting in. And they had put two pieces of cinder block in the backside of that the vent, and I mean, granted, it blocked it off, but I guarantee you, that was probably minimum of $300 or $400 job, just that one item. And they took a couple pieces of cinder blocks, put it in there. Like, man, that's junk, you know. Um, there was two wall vents, just your just a airflow vent, for venting the kind of the attic portion. And they cut some foam. They actually did, I guess, at least cut the foam to fit in the to fill in the whole space, but then just duct taped that foam in place. So your ventilation is gone because they're blocking the hole up, and two, they just used the duct tape, Well, one of them had already fallen down, and the other one was half hanging. And I mean, I guarantee you that was probably a $1,500, $2,000 bill that they paid for that work, and I bet there was $12 total in the cost of the repairs. I mean, it was a joke. So that's another something to keep in mind is sometimes the sales process, especially if you're trying to get comfortable with it, is a little. It takes a little bit to get comfortable with, but also keep in mind, the quality of your work, and if, especially if somebody else is getting some other bids, the quality of the work that's going to be done by some of these other companies, and if your pricing's on par, the job's going to cost pretty much the same or pretty close, and they're going to get a lot better quality work from you. So some of those items of being able to ask for the sale in person and things like that, I think can go a long way in helping you build and grow and maintain your business. So that's we'll wrap that up. I feel pretty good about that kind of rundown. Again, I'm no expert on sales. I'm trying to learn, trying to become one. But man, I got a lot of learning to do to become one. But I've kind of stumbled my way through, and I hate to even say that because I really do feel like even my ability to close sales before I really focused on trying to learn about sales, just through kind of a little bit, not a whole lot of personality, but just a genuine one of the best books that I read when I was younger that I thought was a waste of time when somebody gave it to me. Um, but after a few years after I read it, I really kind of realized the how good of a resource it was Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. And the name sounds kind of fishy and cheesy, but the bulk of the book is just you know show people that you care about them, show people that you're interested in them. Try not to start conversations and talk about yourself. People love talking about themselves, so ask them about something. And I'll be 100% honest with you, and I think I'm in good company here. That's really hard for me. I've always been a kind of a self-proclaimed introvert. Um, you probably wouldn't have guessed that, but it's a lot easier to talk for 50 minutes at the time when I'm just talking to a camera. I'm not talking to all of y'all that are listening in person. That would have changed my mind. But I've always kind of, I think we as trappers, that's one of our things. We don't like being around people. We don't like dealing with people, um, unless it's other trappers, and we got something in common. And I think that's one aspect. You're gonna run into people that are aggravating and hard to deal with, and whatever. But in general, most of the people that I've run into, um, they're very interested in what we as trappers do, and everybody's interested in animals, and so it's easy to talk to people, and then from some kind of deliberate focus, from a pretty wise, I've realized, former boss that was kind of trying to mentor me and trying to push me to um, get more comfortable talking with people and talking with strangers and asking questions and speaking in groups, stuff that I did not want to do. But through his pushing, I worked towards that, and that's gained me a lot. I think that's a huge asset. And then, like I said, really and truly, when you're responding to somebody and going out and dealing with somebody that's got a squirrel in their attic and they want to get rid of it, as trappers, we know how to read sign and how to look for where animals are going, and we know how to talk to people simply and frankly, from talking with farmers or whatever. And so being able to just talk to somebody and have a discussion, you've got a reason to be there. They called you, wanted you to be there, and then just talking to them, making small talk. Um, it can go a long way in helping your business in general. You know, giving um, encouraging people to pass your name along through word of mouth, which is a great way to get more referrals because that's not costing you anything, right? Um, so anyway, I encourage you if you think, especially if you're younger and you think you're an introvert and you don't like talking with people, I'm with you. You're in good company, but I would encourage folks to seek out, especially if this is something you want to do. Um, you know, seek out opportunities to kind of get a little bit uncomfortable with yourself and talk to strangers and uh, and things like that because not just in this business, but when I working as a in the forestry industry, that was one of my first realizations out of college was we learned all this stuff about um, about the forest and tree names and how they're harvested and planted and all this. Man, all that went out the window when you're managing logging crews because all that matters is getting that logging crew to to produce the quality job that you want, and you learn real quick how to deal with people and how not to deal with people. And I've seen a lot of folks that um, I guess it kind of came natural for me of trying kind of being an introvert and not being one that's gonna go in and try to bully and boss folks around because I'm the boss, but go in and sit back and listen more than I talk and try to take in what's going on and gain knowledge and wisdom before I try to give any advice and try to recognize um, folks that have a lot more experience than me and learn from them. And just that the realization that relationship aspect of everything um, is what really matters. That's what really makes the money with any company, is the relationship aspect and, whatever you're doing, that's important. So it's as much or more, it's way more important than your knowledge about how to catch critters because let's face it, anybody can catch critters, but not everybody can sell somebody a $5,000 job on how to catch critters and keep them out in the future. So, anyway, best of luck to y'all. I hope this is helpful. I hope, if nothing else, I definitely encourage you to check out some of Zig Ziglar's books on selling. Grant Cardone, he's a hard charger, and he'll definitely make you think. And so, uh, listen to those things. Give me some feedback. Let me know what you think, and we'll catch you on the next one.